All right. Welcome everyone to another week of Blueprint for Peak Performance. Ask me anything. I am Brandi Smith. I'm the founder of Perfect Physical Therapy and Performance Training, and the founder of Perfect NPT Academy, which is online courses for coaches, parents, and athletes. I'm super excited this week to just be here today. We're well into summer now. Yeah, it's been a busy summer session already. Last week was an awesome week with Coach Levi. He'll be coming back in August. Mark your calendars, August the 27th. But this week we just got a nice Q&A one-on-one with me, and we can just answer and talk about whatever you want to talk about. So, what's going on, Brianne? We've got a couple different people but coming in. But what all do you got going on? What do you want to talk about today?
Hmm, that's a good question.
I know.
Um,
You've been here. You're like one of the most dedicated ones. You're here. I mean, has it been, it's been like a year and a half now that we've been doing this. No, see, November of 2023, we started these, and you've
yeah,
been here most of them.
I try. There's lots of great information. Um,
Well, good. What have you found that you like? When you say there's a lot of great information, what are you taking home from all these? Because we do this webinar every
oh
week.
my goodness, I have a notebook full.
Oh,
Um,
you've been taking notes. Yes.
yes, yes, I've been taking notes and then I copy the recordings and I send them to my other coaches and I'm like, you need to watch this.
I love it.
Um, the ones that I'm like, really, you really need to get something out of this. Um, all the fundamental movement stuff. I literally could geek on that out on that for hours.
So
Like,
like the developmental movement, like that fundamental
yeah,
stuff, or the biomechanics. Okay, the
yeah.
developmental. Okay.
Yeah. We just have so many kids that are all over the freaking place. it
Explain what you mean by that. I kind of
like
have an idea, but explain.
herding cats,
Herding
literally
cat.
herding cats. And they're old enough that we shouldn't have to herd cats.
Yeah.
Like just absolutely crazy. I was at a clinic this past weekend and I felt so bad for one of the clinicians because he doesn't work with little kids, like younger kids, and he mostly works with boys.
Mm.
So he had this group of like 10 bronzes that were like max 8 years old. And literally, he could not get them to stand on a line. Like the whole stand on a line, side by side, hands behind your back, pay attention. Like, no, he couldn't get all 10 of them to do it at the same time. And he was like going out of his mind. He was like, I don't even know what to do at this point. And then they'd be like, eyes on me. And the one little girl would like do this bug eyed look and like lean forward and get in his bubble. And it was like, whoa.
No clue of personal space
No,
or
no.
social
Right?
expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just trying, I don't know, to figure out how to get their brains to work correctly. We've implemented a bunch of crawling stuff and those pushbacks you were doing
Yeah.
as part of our bar warm up at this point. Just and it's atrocious. Like they can't do it. They literally can't do it. They cannot figure out how to crawl. And so,
Are you talking
um,
about the army crawling, the belly crawl?
yes,
Mhm.
they can't do it. They can't figure out how to opposite arm, opposite leg. They can either pull with their arms or push with their legs, but they can't do both.
Okay. Oh,
And
I see. Yeah. So the army crawl is not opposite; it's same side. That's a what we call a homologous. So it's body
right,
side.
uh
So they
huh,
should be pushing. Um, okay. I'm gonna do something. I'm teaching my Born to Move Babies class right now, so I'm gonna pull something from the slide. Let me just pull it up really quick so I can show you this picture, and then we can play with it. Um,
yeah. I had my
I
preschool coach who's actually going through all of your Born to Move stuff.
yeah.
I had her at our staff meeting Monday. I'm like, explain this to the group because I was teaching platinums. I'm like, I need you to explain this to them. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
she did a whole crawling presentation
Oh,
at our staff
good.
meeting.
That's great. And so
Yeah.
how was the presentation? Was she able to wait, when did she do it though? This week.
Monday night.
She did it Monday night. Oh, so she probably is like, man, I should have waited one more week because we went deeper into it yesterday. Um,
Uh-huh.
So let me just get the slide ready because I don't want to show the whole world the entire presentation because
Right.
there's some cool secret stuff in there, some secret sauce. But we can do these motor patterns. Matter of fact, the two motor patterns you're talking about are right next to each other in the slides. So I'm just going to share my screen. Um, so these are the motor patterns you're talking about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what this is the pushbacks, right? Now,
Yep.
my daughter helped me with these pictures. Her arms are really far out. They actually should be a little closer in at this point. She just kind of went a little too far. She got a little too excited. Um, so, but you're just gonna push back and then and come through here, right? So that's that pattern, and that one's pretty easy. I'm guessing they're probably not struggling too much with that one. Are they struggling with that pattern as well?
More than they should.
Yeah, yeah. So are they struggling with just getting pushed up and then pushing their body away? They can't figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I found with a lot of athletes that don't have this pattern is that they are dominating. So instead of using their posterior chain to push back, they're dominating with hip flexion, which puts them in a little bit of a pike. And when they're pushing down into the ground there's no budging. So they're like
Right.
not able to move. So they have to figure out how to move themselves. And that is a fun experiment for them to like wrap their minds around and kind of figure it all out. Let me let Christina in. Christina, you want to go ahead and promote to panelists so you can join in with us and see the chat and do all the fun things. So here is the crawling pattern we were talking about. And
Right.
with the crawling, oh, it's not in this one. It's in another one that I put yeah. So with the crawling pattern, you want to push with the leg and then reach with the arm. So when she's here, she flexes up this one foot. She brings her knee up to her chest, and you can see her spine has to rotate, but her hip is
Mm-hmm.
not way off the ground, right?
Right.
And then she gets her heel up because she has to push. So she's pushing through her big toe. And as she pushes, this leg starts to come down. Oh, wait, this is just the kick off the dirt. I'm sorry. We're not doing that. This is the first part. So if they're having trouble, let me rephrase this. Actually, this is why we're going over it. If they're having trouble army crawling, I would back up. I would back up to just getting them to learn how to push up and even like look around or just doing the push up, like just the push up part. And then
Mm-hmm.
see if you can try to get them to push back. Like that may be helpful. But I would back up the army crawl to just this leg part. Start with the leg part so that they can start to figure out how to push through their leg. And you can see her head is pointed towards the foot that's coming up. Then she comes to center, then she turns her head, then she flexes her other foot. She comes up here and then she pushes through the foot. So she's got her foot lifted again. She pushes down into that straight body. So this is like the lower body part of the army crawl.
Right. Is
And
she
this
moving or is she stationary there?
she's stationary. And I'm going
Okay.
to demonstrate the exercise here in just a second. But I want to show you how this progresses. So this is an ability for her to learn to push through her legs and get that lower body coordinated and how to generate some force without dominating so much with their hip flexors, right? And then let me scroll. The army crawl. Is it this one? Or these are the wiggles? Here we go. Um, so then the army crawl, the belly crawl, right? This leads to, so you can see her legs are doing very similar as what we did. But this time, so this time, instead of being on her belly and her head down, she has her elbows underneath her shoulders and palms are flat. She slides that foot up, but this time when she pushes with her leg and then reaches with the same arm, right? So we have to reach, and I need to say that, reach with the same arm. That's important. It's the same arm. And so it's not with opposite when you're on the army crawl. So she pushes and then she reaches, but notice when she reaches, she's not reaching really far out. She's reaching underneath her. So everything kind of stays in this window. And then she does the other leg, slides it up, flexes the foot, slides it up, pushes, and when she pushes, and you can see she's moving across the panel. She's starting here on the pink, and then when she pushes, she lands on the purple. And then from here, she's on the purple. She's got the right foot up. and she's going to push. And when she pushes, she reaches, and this elbow should be underneath her shoulder. She's a little out far, but not too far. When we got the picture here, she was really well within her boundaries. So she pushed, she's here, she pushes. When she pushes, she then reaches with that same arm, and it's underneath her body. And on this side, she gets her leg up, and you see she's twisted a little bit. And when she pushes, she reaches with this arm. And again, it lands kind of underneath her shoulders or within a few inches of her shoulders. This is a little too far out, but not too bad. Does that make sense? So it's a push
Yeah.
reach on the same side. It isn't until we start actually crawling that we do opposites, contralateral. So this is cross body pattern. This is a body side pattern. So same side. And for Crystal, for Christina, you're just now joining us. Brianne was talking about a lot of just struggles with behavioral issues, keeping kids on task, integrating and coordinating their body movements and their brain-body connection. And she wanted to talk more about, we've talked about this in the past, and Christina, I don't know if you've been here or caught some of the recordings, but there's a whole bunch of different recordings on the 6 sensory motor building blocks. We did 2 different sessions on that. We did a myth busting one where we also talked about some of this. And those were a few weeks ago, and those are on my YouTube lives if you want to go back and follow those. But what we're talking about today is she wanted to specifically talk about some of these developmental patterns that she's trying to integrate with her kids on bars. And the struggle is being, and tell me if I'm wrong, or Brianne, maybe you can summarize it, but the struggle is that they just can't do these movements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like even my older girls, like I have a platinum that only uses one half of her body.
The upper half or lower half or just one side?
Like the left side, I think.
Yeah, so she can do
it's
one
only
side.
one side. She like drags the other one.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So one thing I would say is ask them to all bring and keep a pair of tights in their lockers. So if they're struggling so hard with this, let's back it up and make it really easy, take away as much friction as we can. You see, I have her on a panel mat, right? So it could be a panel mat on the floor. It could be the landing mat on bars, landing mat on a beam. But the actual landing mat surface, if it's an 8-incher, it needs to be a firm 8-incher. I don't want something so soft that they're sagging into the mat and that when they push their hand down, it dips. So a panel mat works really well. The actual landing mats on bars or beam, or on vault, right? You could also do it there, but it's a firm, slick surface. Ask them to bring some tights, and then if they're struggling with their arms as well, ask them to bring a long sleeve t-shirt. And that way they have their hands and their feet free. You put them on a panel mat and it decreases the friction. So it makes it easier. Like if you think about when an athlete can't do something, sometimes you'll put them there and then ask them to hold the position, right?
Right.
Like it's an assisted thing so that their brain can start to make those connections. If we remove the friction, the blue floor is the worst place to do this, like absolute worst place, because there's so much friction there. And then on top of that, if they're in a Leo, the floor can cause rug burns on their knees and they don't really like how that feels. So then they avoid it and they start doing weird things so that the inside of their heel doesn't hit, or so the inside of their knee doesn't hit the floor, and now they've got funky compensations. So to solve the solution, I would solve the problem. I would start with getting them to bring some tights and just leave those tights in their locker, and a long sleeve t-shirt that is in their locker. And I know you're trying to do this at a bar station. I think that they will get better at it, and that'll probably be fine. But you might, because of needing to change some clothes right now and get them to really find the patterns, you might need to do it at the beginning of practice or at the end. Beginning would be probably more effective because you can then use the neural connections that you're making in your practice. Does that make sense? But if time is not, and if they struggle, you could do both though, beginning and end. Because if they're struggling, right, then you might want to reiterate it. I'm just thinking of like how it is in the gym and time constraints and getting them to put on tights and long sleeve.
Yeah.
That would probably be the most easiest way to implement it right now. And as they get better at it, maybe they do bars with tights on, you
Right.
know, or they do, and then you can get rid of the t-shirt kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a matter of getting them to really find the pattern. When they get really good at this, then they'll be in their bikers or their Leo and they'll be on the mat and they'll be fine. Because you saw, like, I had videos last time of Colt. He was
Right.
just in shorts, right?
Right.
Um, but he had he had some pattern issues we needed to work out, right? But they weren't so hard that he couldn't do the pattern at all. So if I have
Right.
someone who can't do the pattern at all, I start removing, it's just like when we're doing conditioning, make the lever arm shorter, take away the weights, just do the movement itself. So I would do something like that um, for to just to start so they can find these patterns. Does that
Yeah.
make sense, Brianne?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Christina, do you have any questions or thoughts on what we're talking about? Like, do you have any input? Are you also, I'm going to stop screen share for a second. Are you also having trouble with this type of, stuff where you have athletes? So, Brianne, do you want to share just real briefly for Christina what the actual, like you were talking about kids couldn't even stay in line and all these things?
Yeah, like they can't focus.
Yeah.
Like they're 8 years old and you can't get six of them to like stand in a line and all six of them pay attention long enough to give instructions. Like it's literally like herding cats.
Christina, do you relate to this herding cats? Are you herding cats
Yes,
every day at the gym?
definitely. Definitely. I struggle with this. I have a group of baby gyms, and I'm actually working on the crawling.
Mm.
And I think, well, it's
Well, hold on.
back
You
to
said you have
basics.
a group of baby gyms. Explain.
Sorry?
You said you have a group of baby gyms. Can you explain? What do you mean, baby gyms? Do you have like what
Baby
age or?
gyms. I mean, from 8 months to 1 year.
Uh-huh.
It's we work a lot on the more motor issues. So
Yeah.
we're working right now on the crawling and how to bend the back and like all this. I don't have issues with them by getting distracted because they're too small.
Right.
But for example, I struggle with 3 4 year olds 5 year olds with the paying attention. But I think this part of back to basics is very important even when we're working with competition teams, because I think, well, I study biomechanics, and I think it's very important for us to study every movement so they can so give a solution to the problem they have with the posture, with the exercise, with the element itself. So I think back to basics, like first of all, learn how to stand up, how to walk, how to crawl, how to run, and then we can do whatever they want.
Yeah, this is true. So this is what my whole Born to Move program is based on. Christina, have you been following the Born to Move program? Is that where you came in here from?
Yes, actually, I think I've been there like for a few times before, but not sure. I mean, I've never been in the courses or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I used to like watch like everything you put in there, and I
Oh,
think it's very interesting.
good, 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 good. Well, we should talk sometime because we might can support your program, because that's what Born to Move is all about. It's about these developmental sequences, and in particularly working with, 3 months up to 5 years, and what it looks like to have these developmental sequences in there. And then we also have talked about Born to Move like with all ages. And that's kind of where Brianna is asking because she's trying to do it with her older kids who lost that foundation. They maybe didn't crawl, they maybe skipped belly crawling, they might have maybe didn't creep, or they didn't do it long. They're missing some of these integrations that are really important. So we actually talk about in the Born to Move program, and I was just showing a couple slides from actually yesterday's presentation with our first group of founding members that we're into our third lesson right now, third week of the live trainings that we're doing. Because I train gyms how to do this with their athletes and how to implement lesson plans that are neurodevelopmentally appropriate. And so one of the things we talk about in neuroscience is that what we do in our body is what happens in our brain. So
Yes.
for instance, if I didn't crawl, so let's just say, so there's different levels of movement stimulate different parts of our brain. So for instance, when I'm down on the floor wiggling around, actually, we'll just do this. And I would love to challenge you guys to wiggle around with me today. Brianne, I know you don't have your camera on. If you want to put your camera on, you can, but you don't have to. But I would challenge you guys to kind of wiggle around and move with me because I think the best way to learn these patterns, this is what I made my Born to Move group do yesterday. The best way to learn these movement patterns are to actually experience them. And so I highly recommend that you play with this, whether you do it right now or later or whatever. But if I'm on my belly and I'm doing something called pivot prone, which is just the developmental term for what we call either slimy lizards or wiggles. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to here to one side. And so my whole left side of my body is getting long. I'm reaching out, I'm reaching long. And this, my whole right side of my body, including my spine, is getting short. And then if I get to the other side, right? And then I'm just going to go side to side like this. So when you're looking at me from here, I'm going to get long and short on one side. Actually, hold on. This is a better view. We discovered this yesterday. I'll give you guys a better view. There you go. Okay, so if I'm here, I'm going to go like so. And this is all getting long on this side, short on my right side. And then I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to get long on this side and short on my left side. And so this pattern is what we call pivot prone, or with my older kids, I call them slimy lizards, or I call them wiggles, the wiggles. And that pattern activates our lower brain, which is our reptilian brain, which is our center for automatic stuff like breathing, digestion, heart rate. It's our center for survival. It's our center for safety. And so if someone's alarm system didn't get a lot of time, their nervous system didn't get a lot of time in that position, moving, exploring, and there's several other patterns that are in that position as well. But if they didn't get enough time in that pattern, in that position, they may not have developed that sense of safety in the world, that calming of their alarm system. And so we have the reptilian brain inside, then we have the midbrain that wraps around it, then we have the mammalian brain, the human brain, right? The logic brain around all of that. But the bus driver is always the reptilian brain. No matter what, safety is the first thing that will always drive any reaction or response, right? Because if I'm not feeling safe, I will make choices that are around my safety. So if I'm standing in line and someone's close to me, but I'm not centered in my safety, like I don't have safety because maybe I didn't spend a lot of time here, I'm not neurologically developed that safety, then that person might be a little in my space and I might be that kid that gets in their face more to be more aggressive, right? So that I can, like, you know how the lion goes, right? They do that to show their sense of aggressiveness. I'm going to hold my ground and be safe, right? And so a kid who, when someone gets kind of tells them whatever, like you were talking about Brianne, the coach who was trying to tell her, and she got the bug-eyed and got in his face, you know, that could be a response to the midbrain, the reptilian brain, the low brain, not feeling safe, right? Someone gets in my space, I might, the other counter to that is to crumble, right? To be like, or to move away, or to leave the class, right? So these kids that are running away out of class and not able to stay in class, it's possible they're running away for safety, right? And so, like, it is normal to have under the age of, say, 3 and sometimes into 4, it is normal to need attachment with parents for safety. And what they do is they have like how how do I explain it? A parameter or a window of exploration, and then they return to parent. Exploration, return to parent. And with secure attachment, and the lower brain has been really well founded, children can go as they age longer and longer from their parents and further away from their parents and have a sense of safety and security, right? So if that lower brain didn't get some of this, it's possible that behaviors come out because they're lacking internal safety, right? And so you can come back and revisit at any age, right? Now, Christina, with your little ones, these are stuff that I teach parents how to do. Let me grab my baby doll for a second. So with the older guys, Brianne, what that looks like for you is like they're having an emotional outburst. They're like acting out like someone's gonna stab them, or they're acting out like something's after them, right? They either act out aggressively or they collapse. There's two different sides, right? There's the fight or flight. So there's the fight, there's the flight where they run away, and there's the freeze where they collapse. They kind of go like affect, like they don't have a lot of emotion. Deer in headlights, you're looking at them, they seem checked out, right? That's that freeze. They all come from the same part of the brain. It's just the preference of that individual's character and or previous experiences that taught them how to react. Which reaction? So an example, if you can train yourself, if a lion is coming at you, like over you, and you have a moment to just lay dead, play possum, right? That might be the best survival mechanism at that point. And our brain should make that decision. So logically, because we have the human brain, the mammalian brain, the logic brain, the cortex, my brain should think, okay, can I outrun this lion? Probably not. Can I, like, so I remember I was a camp counselor, Team USA Gymnastics camp. I was 19 and we were in Port Jervis, New York, in the middle of the woods. And it was my first experience and I was still training for college. So I had conditioning and running and all these things we had to do. I needed to go for runs every day. But the way our camp schedule was, very little times were there more than one or two counselors off. So we couldn't like go run and work out together. Kind of had to do our assignments on our own. And I remember them saying, hey, there are black bears here. And I was like, wait. I'm from Texas. So I'm like, black bears? Like, what? Are you serious? And they're like, yeah. So someone showed me a picture. They told me how big they were. I go, well, but I need to run. And like, I have to go run by the soccer fields. They're like, yeah. You should go run because you need to do your thing, but you just need to know there are black bears. I go, well, what do I do? And they are like, the best thing to do is just to lay down, right? And act dead because the bear won't get you, right? So our brain has different responses for the fight, flight, or freeze, weighing out our choices. When we don't have a really good developed in connection, right? So if there's not alignment between the lower brain, the midbrain, and then the high brain, our thinking brain, then we may just go into autopilot, right? And so then you could see there's also emotional regulation. So like if the midbrain's not regulated with your emotions, and you just go straight to action without logic, that's called an amygdala hijack. In point though, if you don't have this foundation going, you may see responses that don't correlate with the situation, right? So example, the girl who, when he was trying to tell her to stand up and, upright and whatever, and she goes, blah, like in his face, which was like a weird response, right? It's a dysregulated response because she's not, so she kind of like went into an action without any thought of like, am I really in danger, or do I need to like really show myself up, right? Like, do I need to make myself look bigger in the group to be intimidating, to have a stance in this place? Does this make sense, Brianne and Christina?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, Christina, is this making sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I'm not talking crazy wild and kind of talk about. So one of the things that I'll teach though for the little guys, so for the big guys, when they have these kind of behaviors, Brianne, it's like, hey, you know what? Let's just take a break and let's do some wiggles. 5 wiggles. I used to use a set of 5. 5 is magical. Right, left is 1. Like that's simple. And then let's start over again. And maybe you explain to them, maybe you don't. Like you maybe not even address the behavior problem and just say, hey, you know what? I want to try something. Let's try this. And because sometimes, you know, it's not a point to, if you have someone in fight or flight, addressing a behavior is not going to fix the behavior. They're in fight or flight. They're not hearing you. There's no processing happening. They're just in safety. They're trying to be in that, they're in that lower brain, right? And they have to be in their thinking brain. So by getting them moving, you start integrate these things, and then they can use their thinking brain, right? So there's no point sometimes to address the behavior. Now, clearly, let me rephrase that. Clearly, if someone's in harm, you have to remove the person so that no one's in harm, right?
Right.
Addressing that clearly. But what I mean by don't address the behavior is that if I sit and talk to someone who's in fight or flight and go, why did you hit Joey? Like, blah, blah, blah. They're going to say, I don't know. And they're really for real. They don't know because knowing is in their thinking brain and the action came from their reptilian brain. And so it's more of a regulation issue, not a behavioral issue. Now, when someone has something thought out, right, that's a different scenario where someone's planning something to hurt someone or to do something or to act poorly. That requires logic. And that's a whole nother scenario. This is not that scenario, right? But you and I are talking about these kids that just can't, you know, behave. Like these are not planned actions. These are just things that are happening in the middle of class. So with the babies, I'll teach the mamas and daddies how to help move their babies, right? And we do some stuff where they're laying on their back, where we go body side and body side, so elbow to elbow. And then we do some where we go elbow cross body, elbow to here, and we help them. Of course, they're making eye contact to create safety. They're talking lovingly to them to create safety, because all these patterns, we want to create safety, and the caregiver is the best one to do that. I can do these things and they can feel good with me, but in the end, it's 100 times stronger if the person that's caring for them under the age of 7, but in particularly under the age of 4, biggest window of growth opportunity and neural connections happening, especially in the first year, largest amount. So, you know, if the caregiver is making these interactions, it's 100 times stronger, right? And then what we can do on their belly is we can help promote just by helping them do these movements. And I put them on a slick surface. I put the babies in outfits like this, long sleeves, hands and feet are free, so we get all of our proprioception feedback. And then I can talk to parents about putting them, so like for my baby classes, we do them all on panel mats. Put out 4 panel mats, and I clean the 4 panel mats, and that's our whole class is on the panel mat, because I want them moving and without friction as much as possible. And where was I going with that? Oh, and then at home, I talk to them about how they can get, if they have a lot of carpet, I tell them about getting like a 2-ply heavy plastic material that comes in these huge rolls, like at the fabric store. And you roll them out and you can cut them. And then they can throw them down, and that can be your tummy time space, so that, and you can put the baby on their in a diaper with coconut oil, some kind of editable oil, but coconut oil you can easily find that's editable. And that way, if it gets in the baby's mouth, it's not the end of the world. But I talked to them about decreasing friction so that you can really provide an environment where the baby can explore, because that's where they're really getting their neural system connected. So does this make sense, and is that helpful? Any questions about what I just said, Brianna or Christina?
I think it was quite clear.
Okay, good. Next piece, we got another straggler coming in. Come on in and join us, guys. So back to you, Brianne. Did you have a question, Brianne, before I go on?
Nope.
Okay. So back to you though about those patterns. So the wiggles is a good place to start, and that's like our lower brain. Now, what we can do though, is as we start to get up into the midbrain, which is our center for emotional regulation. So as I start to rise from the ground, right? I can't see myself there. As I start to rise from the ground, I'm starting to activate this up and down motion is starting to activate my midbrain. And then we can even do some of these look arounds, what I call meerkats, right? Getting a little spinal rotation. And with the little ones, when they're on their tummies, they'll get here first, and teaching them and helping them, like with the babies, teaching mom that when they get here, just to help give a little lift underneath, and the baby will start to do this. And what I'll usually do is have mom be in front. I need to cut this pacifier off this girl. I'll have moms right in front of them, and then they can do their little lift here. And then now their eye contact, there's a sense of security. They're talking nicely to the baby. Oh, look at you. You're so sweet. Like whatever they're saying, right? And they're not going to hold them there. They're just going to act like little bumpers at the bowling alley. Those bumpers that you put up for the kids. So going to act like a little bumper, and then kind of let them go and see if they can hold. And the baby might go here, and they come up here, mom helps them, and they hold for a little bit, and then they get tired. And they hold for a little bit. And then eventually the baby will get here, and you can start to take toys or mom, and they can kind of like look around and say, oh, look over here. Oh, look over here with a shaker, right? There are different ways to promote these movement patterns so the babies have something to explore, right? And then with the kids, I just make a little like, let's be meerkats, and we're just looking around like the older guys, right? The next part though that we wanted to talk about was the belly crawling and the kick off the dirt. So they have to be able to kick off the dirt, right? Which is our lower body pattern. When I'm on my stomach, so when I'm doing this press up here, I'm starting to activate the midbrain, and I'm really creating the space for my midbrain, which is where our emotional centers are, emotional regulation. So these movement patterns where we start to get, from here to here, the army crawling, all of those are midbrain activities, and they stimulate the midbrain, right? I'm not saying that other parts of the brain aren't stimulating, they are, but one of the benefits of working in that level is activation of the midbrain, and activation in a centering way, not activation in like a dysregulating way. So what it helps to build is emotional foundation, emotional regulation. It's a more positive way to help with emotional issues. So if I have a kid with a lot of emotional issues, they're showing up with a lot of stress or anxiety, I would either go low brain or midbrain or a little bit of both, right? And so what we do in our body happens in our brain. So by being at this mid-level, we actually activate parts of the midbrain. So the army crawls, all of those things are midbrain activities, and they help to do with emotional regulation, right? So the kick off the dirt, they're gonna have their head here, and so I'm gonna be working more the lower brain because I'm not coming off of the ground. But I'm gonna slide my foot up, slide my knee up, push through my toe, and I'm just gonna kick off the dirt. Come up here and then push and kick off the dirt. And now I do this with all different ages of kids because, like you just talked about, so if they really struggle, I'll do like 5 on one side and then 5 on the other. And you'll see that one side's easier than the other, kind of thing. But when they can get good at it, I'll have them alternate. And you see, when I alternate, my head turns. And one thing that I like to do, because they struggle with this pattern, and it doesn't matter what age they are, so I do the same thing with the babies too. So with the babies, I'll teach the parents too. But if you can just, as a coach, or get partners, you do have to teach them though. It depends on how regulated they are. But when they do their flex their feet and slide their knee up, if they can't get it there, I'll help them. I'll just guide them. This is where I want your knee to go, no matter what age they are, okay? Flex your foot, slide your knee up. And then I'll put my hand at the bottom of their foot, not on their heel, at the bottom. And I'll say, okay, push into my hand when you extend. And I give them just a little bit of resistance. Push. That little extra feedback here, because I know, Brianne, you were in for one of the sensory motor building blocks. Oh no, I didn't show this picture. But in short, so I don't have to pull up the whole thing, the brain has a map of all our body parts. It has a sensory map and a motor map. And it's on this motor cortex right here in our brain, and it's on both sides. But each body part has a certain amount of space in the brain. And it tells us a lot about what we really use and what develops first. So the largest space on the brain are from our hands, our tongue, our nose, and our eyes, right? The very first nerve to develop in utero is the trigeminal nerve, which is the nerve that innervates the tongue and the mouth and the muscles of mastication, so chewing, right? Which you think about, really important that when I pop out as a baby, that I have good control of my chewing and here so I can nurse, right? I need that mouth control, the tongue control. I need that sensation so I can get substance to live, right? So the brain and body is very much develops intentionally and with a map. Like someone who said there's not something greater that made this all plan out. I don't know. I question that. You should spend some time with science and the body because it very clearly develops in a sequence which is necessary for us to function in the world, right? So the reason that babies put all their hands in their mouth and put everything in their mouth is that's their most highly developed nerve because it's been developing the longest, right? So I teach parents like create an environment where they can, because it's like, I can see you, I see this computer, I see this thing, I'm taking in information. I've got a lot of nerves that have developed over the years, right? But for them, when they put something in their mouth, they go, oh, that's a cell phone. Oh, that's mom's thumb. Oh, that's they get more information from it because they're highly developed there. If you develop the vestibular system, which is one of our 6 sensory motor building blocks, because people get worried about this whole putting stuff in their mouth. They freak out about oral fixations and never getting rid of the pacifier, never stopping thumb sucking. But if you stimulate the vestibular system sufficiently within the first 2 years of life, at 2 years old, they will no longer need to put their hands in their mouth because it is a need. Part of it is a stimulation and soothing of the nervous system. And if you stimulate all the other building blocks, they feel centered in themselves. Their map of me is well developed. They don't need to put more things in their mouth after 2, right? Because other senses have developed. So I tell people this piece because they all freak out a little bit when I say, yeah, put everything in your mouth. Let them. Of course, don't let them put poison in their mouth and don't put them somewhere where it's bad and not safe. But like create an environment where it's okay. Which means if you're constantly putting like the mittens, I'm not a proponent for mittens. Never used them with my daughter. And if you look at the world of like of sensory integration and processing, having mittens and socks on our hands and feet is not conducive. And so people who are worried about, well, like they have sharp nails and they have to cut their nails, clean their nails, keep their hands, like it's a little bit of work, but it's way better in the long run that your kid has a huge map of their hands and their mouth, right? Because they take up a huge amount of space on their brain. And so if you have a lot of these sensory integration kids that are having to put things in their mouth, if we work on some of these movement patterns as well as the vestibular component, you have to work on the vestibular component. Which we can talk about in a little bit, but I think we're going to cover all of the movement patterns in this part, or not all of it, but the ones that you were interested in, Brianne. So that being said, where was I? We were talking about the kicking off the dirt. Yeah, so with the kicking off the dirt, kind of diverted a little bit there, but that was important. But when we kick off the dirt, I use my hand just to push onto their basically from the arch of the foot down, however big they are. I've done this with like 20 and 30-year-olds. I've done this all the way down to, 3-month-olds or younger. And you're just, helping them with the pattern and helping them explore something new. For the babies, you're exploring something new. They've never done this pattern. They don't know what to do. And so you're kind of helping them, not propping them, just kind of showing them the movement that they're able to do it. And then they start to play with it and you let them play with it. And then when they have something to push against, they automatically push. You're using before the age of before the age of 4 and 5 months, you're actually activating a reflex to help them figure out how to push, right? Our reflexes have purposes. They teach us things and they save us, right? The startle reflex, they save us from really having a hard fall. And then they also can help activate some of the muscles we need to push, right? And to learn to push. So again, reflexes have a reason, but most of them are gone by 8 months, or they should be gone in a neurotypically developing baby. Okay, so back to kick off the dirt. I'm going to show you my legs so you can see kind of my legs a little better, I hope. Let me see if I can get there. Yeah, okay. I don't have a lot of space. Running out of space over here. All right, so when I'm here, I flex my foot, I slide everything up, I get my toe up in the air because I'm going to push through my foot, and then I'm going to push, right? And then you can do all on one side and come up, push, and then you can alternate. So you're here, you're going to flex, come up here, and then push. What you're going to see a lot of them do is this, right? This is dominating with their hip flexors. And this is not your babies, Christina. They're learning something new, but your older kids, Brianna, they'll do that hip flexor stuff and their pelvis will pop up off the ground and you'll see that my pelvis kind of lifts, right? So with them, I just tell them to slide their knee out and then push. And then if they do this, I'll say, okay, let your hip drop, right? Then push. Is that helpful, Brianne?
I have a question.
Yes, Christina.
For example, the first exercise that you showed with the babies, teaching them how the wiggle. So we do the wiggle, and after that wiggle, we would go with this one.
Yeah, so you can do the wiggle.
Like make it progressive, right?
Yeah, so this is definitely the progression. How do I show this? There's a lot of steps in between. We're kind of skipping a few things because of time and because it's built into our whole Born to Move program. But like there's several different steps. But the wiggle would be your first easiest of the ones I've showed today, and then the next would be the kick off the dirt, right? And then at the same time as the kick off the dirt, they begin, just the babies begin to just come from here to here, right? So this might be around the same time as they start to do this, right? So they kind of, there's some things that emerge naturally developmentally around the same time. Like that 4 to 6 month window is huge. There's a bunch of emergence of a lot of skills. But then from there, they start from this, like, so the progression with their upper bodies, they go from here to up to here and elbows directly underneath their shoulders. So eventually they're able to push, right? And it happens in a pretty short, like 3-4 week window. It can happen within a month to 2 months, well, a month and a half of when they first start to be able to hold themselves up. And then when they start to figure this out, they start looking around, like what's going on, right? And then they'll play with, when they get here, they'll kind of be like, I want to move, and they want to push, and they'll start to push back. So you see, unfortunately, I need to retake those pictures. My daughter has her arms way out here in those pictures. It shouldn't be that far. So I'm here, and they just push back. You can see everything kind of stays within my body. It's not really far out. And so once they've played with that, then they'll start going into the army crawling stuff. So in order to do army or belly crawling, right, they have to be able to hold themselves up with their elbows underneath their shoulders. So this is where you were talking, Brianne. And so I want to kind of show you about this. When they're doing their belly crawl, they flex up the foot, slide the knee up, heel comes up. They're going to push, then reach. So you should see a push, reach. And then the other foot should come up, push, reach. What you'll see a lot of your gymnasts do is they'll drag with their arms, like I did earlier, kind of just moving around. They'll drag with their arms, which is a disconnect in their brain from their upper body and their lower body. that person has a hard time connecting their core. They're gonna have a hard time like using their lower body, basically.
That's exactly what I'm seeing is all upper body pull.
Yeah, that's probably the most common compensation you're gonna see in your kids, you know, that are not, so like Christina, you're not gonna see that in, well, you will see an infant who has not connected all their patterns. That is a compensation you'll see an infant do. And if an infant starts to do that, I back them back down and you spend a little more time working on their lower body. And we spend some deep pressure stuff, and there's a bunch of things we can do to kind of get them to integrate their lower body a little better. For your older kids, Brianne, if they're doing the pull, go back to the kick off the dirt, spend some time there, maybe just do a set of 3 or 5, and then just cue them. So after they've done a few of these, and what I would do is resist them, put some push pressure here so that they have something to push against. So then they can really feel their leg working, right? And then just say, push with the kick off the dirt first, then just catch yourself. And at first they'll do something weird. They'll do this and they'll fall because they'll be able to do something in their legs now and not connect it to the upper body. So they say, okay, you got the legs, right? You got the legs. Now all I want you to do is just, you want to do the reach, but wait till you push, right? So you go here, push, reach, and just catch yourself. And I usually try to give them something to look at, like maybe there's a dot on a block in front of them. There's a toy. In my hallway, I have a little orange axolotl. It's a 3D printed thing my daughter made. It just stands out. It's something for someone to look at. So then once they get here, you go, okay, can you try the other side? Flex the foot up, kick off the dirt, then reach, right? And then now see if you can connect them better. And at first, they're going to be really slow. Like it'll be clear, one leg, stop, other leg, stop. But eventually, you'll get them to connect it better and better. So you're here, flex, push, reach, push, reach, push, reach, push, reach. And then since you're already here, push back. Now you're working 2 patterns in one little section, right? Does that help, Brianne? Does that answer your question about the crawling?
Yep.
Okay. Any thoughts, Christina?
No, I think it was very clear.
Good. Thank you. You're welcome. Brianne, any other thoughts for you?
Not on that.
No? Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, we only have like 4 minutes left. I want to go over the crawling, but I don't think we'll have time to do it justice. But the key you want to think, okay, I will show you one little thing. But I won't be able to do the whole like crawling thing. But the key with crawling is that it's the opposite. It's going to be led from the upper body. So it's going to be reach, pull. Now they don't reach way out. They just reach out like a hand width. And then they pull the opposite leg. So it's a cross body pattern. Their head should be up looking, reach, pull, reach, pull, reach, pull. What you want to make sure you see is that they reach, pull, reach, pull, reach, pull. You see my hips and my knees are underneath each other. My hands are underneath my shoulders. I'm not wide. If we have a baby or an individual, no matter what age, if they are wide, they don't have very good core control. So if you guys play with this position and try to crawl, you'll find that, do you see how I do the butt wiggle? There's a wiggle that happens. So they're here and they're going to reach, pull, 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 reach, pull, reach, pull. And so there's a wiggle. I'm not using my core. So what you want to do with them, and with babies that do this, I just slide them in and I become a bumper, and I teach the parents how to do that. I teach them to just, when they're on their hands and knees, to just be the bumper, and I help them guide their legs. So I teach the parents to guide their legs as they're crawling. Now, clearly she'd be up in this position. It's hard to do with a baby doll. But the same thing with the older kids. I'll go behind them, slide their knees in, and say, okay, now crawl. And you just kind of guide them so that their knees aren't going way out. It makes them have to use their core. It makes them have to get connected. Some of the older kids, you'll see them do this thing, and they'll go like this, they'll lead from their knees. So that's too much hip flexor, right? And it might be that they also do it really tight in with their feet really close together, especially if you've been teaching them gymnastics for a long time, because they're like always trying to squeeze, and that's them using their adductors over their core. So you don't want the rounding for the hip flexors over the core. You don't want the knees in for the adductors over the core. Knees apart, and then I just have them slide like that. The other thing you don't want to see is the saggy, right? Like they should be just a flat tabletop. And so, sometimes I'll put something on them, bean bags, a water bottle, and just say, keep that there while you crawl. When they get a good pattern going, you can start to like put little, you can put the panel mats in a triangle. They have to crawl underneath that. For your older guys, that usually means army crawling. They have different size tunnels you can get. On the way back from vault, they have to crawl through the tunnel. That's a great place to add crawling. Not crawling, creeping on your hands and knees. The tunnel, because that crossbody pattern is running. It's a great place to get the pattern and then ask them to use it when they run. Army crawling is good anywhere. The kickoffs, the side to side, like all those things are good anywhere because they're going to integrate the three different parts of the brain, low, mid, and high brain. They'll help with emotional regulation. They'll help with the autonomic nervous system, and then they'll help recenter. So when we get vertical, that's when we start using our high brain. So when kids start standing and walking, that's when our thinking brain starts to get really activated. Now, we showed the 6 sensory motor building blocks, the pyramid, right? And the foundation being proprioception, tactile, proprioception, vestibular, tactile touch. Those 3 build up what's called our map of me, our kinesthesia, our awareness of our body. And you need all 4 of those in order to do motor patterns, which is what we just did. And then motor planning is the top, which is gymnastics, obstacle courses, dance, any kind of like patterning where you're having to sequence things, routines, all of those things, right? Gymnastics and dance is really good at motor planning, but we are missing all these other blocks these days. So where was I going with that piece? We just worked on the motor pattern part, right? But if these other blocks are lacking, the motor patterns can be a great place to get some proprioception. They are getting some tactile touch, but they're not getting any vestibular, and they may not be doing a lot of map of me stuff. So that goes back to some of that previous recordings, Brianne, to help with like those individual building blocks. But today your question was really about the motor patterns, which are easy to integrate and can make a huge difference. One thing I think we talked about this in one of the other lectures was just that, or like not lectures, but talks, was just that when someone uses a lot of thinking brain, like say you're an engineer or you're in 3 AP classes, right? Then you have to think about, well, if this block is getting bigger, just like any muscle, I'm building that block because I'm spending a lot of time on it. If you're not also spending some time to build out and restore and get larger your proprioception, your vestibular, and your tactile touch, eventually your pyramid's going to become flipped. And so some of this is because they haven't gotten their development from the get-go. Some of it's because they spent more time on building blocks than others. And so balancing out the building blocks is the key, right? So like I have college athletes that will find themselves really stressed, or seniors and juniors in high school find themselves really stressed and kind of having trouble regulating, and it'll affect their performance in the gym. Sometimes it looks like injuries. Sometimes it looks like fear and mental blocks. Sometimes it looks like they just lose skills and their timings change and they don't know why. And a lot of times when I go back and I look at their whole world, I realize that you're doing a ton of high brain activity. You're doing a ton of this motor planning or high level activity of planning, like, because we know that the same part of your brain that does a motor sentence, 3 movements in a row, also creates language, right? So language, sentences, writing, speaking. And those are all things that are required in AP English and even other AP classes you have to present, right? So they're doing all these activities. They're high brain activities. If I spend time on bringing them back to the low brain and the midbrain, doing some really integrating activities, all of a sudden those build out. Now our pyramid altogether has gotten larger. And so it's really about a balance. I see Brianne shaking. So that hits home. That makes sense. Yeah. What are you thinking? I'd love to hear it.
No, it all makes so much sense. Like things that you don't normally connect together makes complete sense. So on these tunnels, these bigger tunnels, about how big are you thinking for like 6 to 8 year olds?
Oh, 6 to 8 year olds. Well, army crawling, you can just get those small, I think I have an 18-inch tunnel or something like that, right? For the army crawling, those little ones. I should have made all those 11-year-olds go through that tunnel and seen what happened. I had a bunch of 11-year-olds over here earlier this week. I'm trying to think what size. Like I saw this giant tunnel that they had at one of the gyms I was at last year when I taught, and I'd never seen one so big. And I was teaching the coaches. So I made the coaches crawl, and it was perfect for the coaches, but it was too big for like trying to make a kid crawl, because it was like this big around, which I don't know what that is, like 24 inches or 28 inches. So, I mean, probably, you think about it, whatever their shoulder and hip width is, you want something that's that wide and maybe a little bit around it, but you don't want something that's so big that they like decide to kneel or they decide to stand.
Right.
I wish I had an exact number. I should look into that.
I have Amazon pulled up on the side trying to figure out what size.
What are the options? What are the size options you see?
There's a 27.6 inch.
Yeah, I think that's like the one I saw that was huge. Let me find here it is. Okay, so 27. Yeah. So this is like the size of the adult one I used. I saw.
Okay. So smaller than that.
Yeah, smaller than that. What's the next size down?
Let me see.
Because right now I think I have, I think mine's 18 for the little guys.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, I've seen the preschool ones, but that's not going to work.
Yeah, preschool one is like 18. I mean, yeah, if there's an in-between, it would be great. Like if there's a 22 inch or 24 inch.
Okay.
But if there isn't, then I would probably go with that 27 inch.
Okay.
One. Let me know what you find, because you're not going to be the first coach that has that question.
Right.
So shoot me a message. You have my number, so just shoot me a message.
I do. Now. Yep. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, so we'll do this, and then I still have a hopscotch out for these guys because they can't 1 foot, 2 foot jump, and it's like we're just gonna have a playground on vault.
Yeah. Hopscotch is a great one for the older guys. Yeah. I love it. That's a good one for coming back on vault, because you need to work on hurdling in, right?
Yeah, they can't hurdle and punch. So
yeah, it makes complete sense. And then once you get the tunnel, I'd love for you to send me a video. If you don't have rights to the kids or whatever, like maybe just have them crawling away from it. But I would like to see how they fit in it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see the fit.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Keep me posted. Usually we just, like, when I go to gyms, we've done blocks, and I usually just try to find a height block that's a little higher than like when they're on their hands and knees. And then we put panel mat over the block, 2 blocks, and we just created a tunnel that way. But that's way more to set up than just throwing out a tunnel. Like that's, much easier to just throw out a tunnel instead of stealing all your spotting blocks when someone needs them or wherever.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, let me know what you end up with. I love it. It was so wonderful, you guys. Well, we're going to have to wrap up. Christina, I would love to talk to you more. If you're interested in the Born to Move program, let me know. Is that something you'd interested in talking some more about?
Yes. Well, I think I have a lot of competition athletes, but I think everything about the fundament, the foundations are very bad. Yeah. So I'm struggling with this because there are kids that haven't crawled first or haven't been at baby gym first. Like they just say, okay, you're gonna be in level 4 from 0 to 4, and so it's not working. So
Yeah.
I think maybe progressions and stuff in order from foundations to do a better job, because that's why I studied biomechanics in order to improve like all the movements. I'm a choreographer also, so I focus a lot on the leaps and the turns and all that part. So I think it would be also very useful.
Well, I would love to talk with you. If you want, you can go in the chat and direct message me the best way to contact you. Whether I don't know if you're here in the US or if you're in another country, but I have WhatsApp. We can always do a WhatsApp, but I would love to talk with you a little bit more. If you can just direct message me your info in the chat, probably. And then I can
Yes,
grab it from there and
I'm
what
from
is it?
Mexico.
Okay, you're from Mexico. Okay, yeah, I can call you from my phone directly then, I think. Um, do you use WhatsApp or is a phone call the best?
I use WhatsApp.
Okay, I'll WhatsApp you later and we can come up with a time where I can chat with you.
Sure, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm
And see how we
sending it
go.
to you.
Yeah, I got it. All right,
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
put that in
that
before we.
is
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you some more and seeing if I can help you guys with all this developmental stuff because it is it's an epidemic. It really is an epidemic at this point. Let me make sure I got the number right. Okay, good. Um, yeah, so I'll definitely give you a WhatsApp and we'll see if we can connect it somehow because my mission, my new mission is to help regulate the world. Like
yes.
my new mission is like I really want to impact as many children as possible and families as possible and help the developmental it's the neural connections that are missing that really are affecting everything. Like it's like I was like, where's my biggest impact? Well, if we can help people regulate, emotionally regulate, mentally regulate, be resilient, have agency. So if we can help them with that neurodevelopmental stuff, they can actually be successful in the world, whether it's learning, school, a job, sports, like everything comes from this aspect. And I really feel like the gymnastics gyms are where it's at because if you really look closer at everything, the healthcare systems everywhere in the world are strained right now. We've got kids that need care that aren't getting it. We've got little infants that are on 3 and 4 month wait lists. It's like once 3-4 months have gone by as an infant, that's a huge amount of developmental changes that they've missed. And so I really think gymnastics gyms across the world is where it's at that we can help bridge this gap and educate the parents and teach people to love movement and then they can stay with you because I mean, then you have a whole nother childhood obesity and other stuff, right? Like they need to learn to move and love movement and be comfortable in their bodies so that they can be successful in life and be healthy. So it is a passion of mine to help gyms across the world to integrate and do all of this stuff. So I'm so glad, Christina, that you jumped in. How did you find us? Is this the first time you've come into the webinar?
Yes, it's the first time.
Okay, but did you find us? How did you find us?
It was very useful because, as I told you, I've got a lot of baby gyms, so
Yeah.
I think it was very useful for me to
I'm so
like to help them do the better progressions in order to have the correct connections.
Yeah, well, we gave you some basic stuff. There's a whole lot more to this. I have a whole program on it. But how did you find us? Did you find us on Instagram or Facebook, or how'd you find us?
I think I'm in a group on Facebook.
Oh, okay, great.
So I found it there, and actually, I have like a lot of coaches groups and stuff.
Yeah.
So in one of them, I was like, "Oh, there's gonna be a webinar. Let me check." And that's
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 real. I'm
nice.
so glad you were able to come. Yeah, we're here every Wednesday. It's the same link. The next several Wednesdays are open Q&A like this. So if you want to dive deeper into something, just come in and ask your questions. Sometimes we have people coming in talking about specific topics. We've had several of those most of this year, but the next window of opportunity is a lot of quick Q&A where you guys can guide whatever we cover. So come on in every week. You should get a follow-up email with the recording as well. So whenever you register, as long as you register, you'll always get a follow-up email as to whatever it is I talked about. But we'd love to have you here, and next week I can answer whatever questions you have.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Well, thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
Christina. I'll shoot you a WhatsApp later. All right, everyone.
Okay.
Next week is another opening Q&A with me. So bring your questions and join. Same link, same time. It's 12 to 1 Central Standard Time. So I look forward to seeing you guys.